Something that we really like about the Discover reports is it tells them how their property fits into the local market and what that might look like from an investor standpoint.
Right.
And if an owner we meet with has no idea what they want to do with that property in 3, 5, 10 years, that's actually a sign to us that we're probably not the best culture fit.
Welcome to another episode of Grow Outbound presented by Discover. I'm Ben Smith, and we're here today at Nashville, Tennessee at PMMCon 2023. I'm joined by a very special guest, Mr. Brad Rendall. How are you, Brad? How's the week been?
Doing great, Ben. Love it.
Awesome.
Nashville's great. Great to see you.
It's great. It's great to be here in person. I think the last time I saw you was at this conference last year.
Yes.
So it's good to be back together. So, Brad, I want to start by asking you a little bit about your background and your company, where you are, your role in the business, all that stuff.
You bet. So, our company based out of Salt Lake City area in Utah, and my background is I actually chose to go into property management, which I know you talk with a lot of people and they don't. But I went to school. I got a degree in facility and property management from Brigham Young University, which is a real degree.
Yeah.
Despite what some say. And I got a minor in business, and I immediately went and worked for a commercial broker.
Okay.
I was working for a commercial broker, and I was delivering checks for cash flow. You know, this is the return every month. And I remember thinking, I think I want to do that. That's what I want to do. And I want to be the one receiving checks, not the one that's just the messenger.
Yeah.
And, but I was very hesitant to work with family initially because I had heard horror stories of you work with family and it's terrible. You know, it's going to tear up your family. But the opportunity came to work with my father, who already had established a property management brokerage and everything. And then after a few years of working with him, I made a bid to purchase the property. And so I did a purchase over time, just using monthly cash flows, things like that to purchase the company over time.
Yep.
So I serve as the owner and operator of Welch Randall Property Management. And my current role, we have a principal broker that runs a lot of the day-to-day. We say principal broker, she's really kind of like a general manager.
Okay.
But I am still playing the role of owner, and I am actually currently our BDM still.
Yeah.
So I tried to move away from that 2 years ago. It didn't happen. Tried again last year. Didn't happen. So third time's the charm that we're hoping that we can move myself out of that role.
Maybe 2023 will be the
2023 could be my year.
I love it. Well, I mean, the situation that you're in is not dissimilar from a lot of property managers, right? You know, you got to wear a lot of hats. And sometimes that may look like, all right, I'm the owner, but I'm also the director of finance or the director of maintenance or right. And so as staff changes and you need to backfill roles, like you kind of have to be over everything.
Yeah.
And so I think your perspective is very valuable in that sense, because I think there are probably a lot of property managers that are in your shoes saying, okay, I know if I want to grow more, I really need someone that is focused on the business development aspect, because the reality is you get distracted by fires to put out and that sort of thing. I guess out of necessity, what you've been doing, talk a little bit about how you've kind of managed your time and what your mindset has been towards business development as part of the pie, but not the whole pie.
Yeah. So it's a great question. I was raised, and I knew in business that if you are not growing, you're dying.
Right.
As simple as it can be. And if you are not adding doors, or if you are not adding revenue streams to your company,
right,
then there's going to be churn.
Yeah.
People are going to sell. People are going to look for another offering. It just happens. Now, you don't necessarily want to lose. You don't want to lose a lot of business, but you also don't need to be afraid of certain doors leaving.
Sure.
So as far as, how we look at it and how I look at it, I try to time block a certain amount of time each week to just business development.
Yeah.
Am I 100% perfect at that? No, absolutely not. But I try to block off time each day, or even I'll say Mondays and Fridays, I'm not going to have any scheduled meetings.
Right.
And I'm going to use that time to do follow-up, to reach out to this person, to meet with new owners, to do some new campaigns on Constant Contact or whatever it may be.
Right.
So time blocking, I think, helps. One thing that I also think helps is if you can, you build into your CRM automated responses and things like that.
Yeah.
So that if you are just one person doing it, then you can do those follow-ups without it depending on you every time.
Yeah.
And I actually need to build a more robust way of doing that. I have the basics, but I just think I'm at the tip of the iceberg of what you really could do.
Yeah.
So someone that's doing the BDM role by themselves right now and trying to wear those different hats, try to automate what you can, try to time block.
Yeah.
And it is so easy to get lost in the tenants yelling at you and the things that there's always going to be dumpster fires. You're not going to have to look for those. They're going to come.
Right.
So you need to say, okay, I'm going to dedicate X amount of time per day, per week, per month to growing the business. Otherwise, the other stuff will take over very quickly.
Well, and I can imagine it's very easy when you have, at least for me, like when I find that I'm blocking time for things, it's easy to get an email that you're like, well, I know I had this time blocked for this, but this is a fire, or it's easy to have that time pushed out. Right. And that, to your point, like if you're not growing, you're slowly dying.
Yeah.
And so prioritizing the time that you have blocked for business development and keeping that, while also making it easier on yourself with automation, having things in place that make it less touches for you to handle.
Yeah. And I do think one thing that can help is trying to time block between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. is harder.
Yes.
On a Friday, it's a little bit easier.
Right.
But I feel like small business owners, medium business owners, if they are in operations in any way, shape, or form, when the office closes at 5, you are actually beginning.
Right.
And you can love it, you can hate it, but that's just the reality. So for me, between 5 p.m. and 9 a.m. is usually when I'm thinking about the business more.
Right.
And we have messaged each other very early in the morning at times. Because I'm just a big believer that between about 5 a.m. and 7 a.m., there is 2 hours for me of golden time to work because I'm not a night owl. Yeah. If you're a night owl and can do it from 11 to 1, great.
Right.
But dedicating a couple of hours early, my mind is just kind of focused and I can kind of get into that flow and churn stuff out much quicker than when you're trying to do it in the middle of a work day.
Yes, absolutely. Brad, one of the things I want to ask you about is, when you're doing business development for your company, you obviously have a different perspective because you own the company. You see the full picture, right? You're thinking about your team and how growth impacts them. You're thinking about, all right, this owner that I'm talking to that is really going to be a high touch owner for my team. And so it's not about growing for the sake of growing, but it's adding quality doors. I'd love to hear a little bit about how you think about that when you're doing business development and talking to people, and maybe how it might be different because as the business owner, you're seeing that full picture of the business, not just this little sector, right?
I think something that I've gotten better at over the years is asking questions in that meeting of the owner.
Yeah.
Initially, it was always this mindset of, if they're willing to meet with me, then we should be willing to take them on.
Right.
And I've become much more comfortable in saying, I don't think we're the best fit for you. Or I think your best alternative may be going this other route.
Sure.
Giving them that option. So I think asking questions of our potential owners is big.
Yeah.
I also think providing real, give them the good, bad, and ugly of property management.
Yeah. Don't sugarcoat it.
Yeah. Because the investors that you want are going to understand that there's going to be maintenance fees. Right. There's going to be times where you have to fork over some money.
Yep.
And if you go to an owner and say, and you say, what's your expectation with maintenance? And they say, well, I I am so close on my mortgage every month that a filter repair or a filter change is going to really hurt me.
Right.
It's going to end up badly.
Right.
And so maybe you recommend self-managing.
Yeah.
And something that I've heard, and we've heard it at this conference a few times, is you can rent the market, you can't rent somebody's mortgage.
Yeah.
So I like to ask questions like, what do you owe on this property? What are you expecting to get out of this?
Right.
And if the market rent that we provide with a report says $2,200 and they say, I need $2,900, that $700 gap is not going to magically appear.
Yeah. Right.
And only a really unreasonable renter is going to pay it. So that's a point right there where you say, there's a gap here. I don't anticipate that we will be able to be the best fit because of X and X reasons.
Right.
But the data that we provide, and something that we've enjoyed with Discover, is we can get a lot more granular with data than we could before.
Yeah.
When we give owners data points, we like to give them 4 or 5 touch points and then say, it's not going to be one report to rule them all.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
But something that we really like about the Discover reports is it tells them how their property fits into the local market and what that might look like from an investor standpoint.
Right.
And if an owner we meet with has no idea what they want to do with that property in 3, 5, 10 years, that's actually a sign to us that we're probably not the best culture fit.
Right.
If they are looking to try to just make the most in the next 6 months or 12 months and then turn and sell,
right,
we are really not built for that. They should hire a low cost, low service provider to do it.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that, kind of what you just touched on is a great segue into my next question, which is, I think historically folks have viewed property managers as order takers, right? I'm going to give you this percentage. You're going to collect the rent. You're going to handle maintenance, and you're going to send me money every month.
Yeah.
But as there's more and more competition out there and people are thinking about self-managing, right? A lot of the property managers that I really respect in the industry, like yourself, that I've gotten the chance to get to know, are kind of shifting the conversation to, I'm not really a property manager. I'm an asset manager, or I'm an advisor over your investments. And I think that's a key differentiation point, because if somebody is an inbound lead and they sent you a message and their first question is, hey, what's your pricing? Then there's really only a couple percentage points from what you offer versus somebody else. So how do you differentiate your business in a way that is not based around price or, hey, we've been in business for X amount of years? What are the practical ways that you're differentiating in those sales conversations?
I think it's a great point. And I actually feel like one of the easiest ways to do that is changing some of the words that we use.
Sure.
So our owners are our investors, we don't just call them our owners.
Right.
We look at the properties as investment properties, whether they keep it as an investment for a year, 10 years, whatever, they're still using it as an investment.
Right.
And if they go to an investment advisor, the investment advisor is going to give them a current outlook, recommendations, and future outlook.
Yeah.
But we as property managers don't do that.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason we don't do that is it's hard to automate it.
Sure.
So if you have 400 owners, trying to do those individual touch points with every owner is tough.
Yeah.
But we like to change the terminology. And then we build a program for our investors that, we want them to buy properties.
Right.
So we do 4 to 6 Zoom meetings a year. They turn into YouTubes. They are not high quality. They are $0 to put together. But we talk with our owners. We give them legal advice from local attorneys.
Yep.
We give them market advice from brokerages, aka our brokerage.
Right.
We talk with them about eviction issues, comfort, assistance animals, all of that.
Right.
Stuff that they want to hear about. And then we always frame it with them of saying, we call it the summit, the investor summit series.
Okay.
So it's like we are their advisors and not just hey, by the way, we collected your rent, we did this. But what we've actually noticed is people embrace that change.
Yeah.
Then the questions about why did we spend this $150? They start to go down as well.
Yeah.
Not always, but they do start to minimize because people see how a repair fits into the bigger picture.
Right.
And something that we like is if we can zoom out a little bit with our owners and not have them think just about the $2,000 water heater replacement,
Right.
and say, how does this fit into your property value as a whole? How does this fit into the last 3 years?
Right.
And they can see that, then it really does change the conversation.
Well, and I think too, like the emotional feeling of, hey, we've got to replace an HVAC, right? And you just shelled out $8,000, and for the owner, or the investor, they're thinking, oh gosh, like I'm losing money on this property, like this is terrible. But like if you're setting them up from a standpoint of, hey, we're not just looking at like how your property is cash flowing today, but we're looking at the long-term future and how long you've had it and how it's appreciated, right? And so then that flips the emotional response back to, like you're saying, like a true investment advisor to say, yes, this is not great. It is unfortunate this happened, but we know that these things happen and we know that the property is still going to perform over time.
Yeah.
So last question for you. One of the things that I think you do really well, and you just kind of spoke to it with what you were talking about with Zoom, a great way to grow your business is to have your owners refer you and buy more properties with you that you can then manage. Talk a little bit about your strategy there and what are some of the ways that you guys have been able to grow with those people that you've already been serving or the people that they know.
So I will be very blunt in stating that I have tried multiple like consultants and everything like this to grow your business through SEO, Google ads, all of this thing.
Right.
Generally, we end up spending a lot of money.
Sure.
And we get some owners, but not a ton.
Yep.
A few years back, we actually cut off a lot of that advertising and focused on Google reviews.
Right.
And then we focused on time with our owners, focusing on our existing clients to grow more. And so we grew our company. About 85% of our new business was a referral.
Wow.
And that has held strong this is like our 4th year.
Wow.
Of 80% plus of new doors is coming from another owner.
Right.
And so treat your current clients like they are going to be referring.
Right.
Ask them for referrals.
Right.
Let them know that you would like to have more business, that we appreciate the referral. Also, do the stuff that you need to do well. Get the reports out on time. Respond to phone calls, emails, whatever system you use. Handle the maintenance work orders. Like, just do that stuff.
Yep.
But then on top of that, look for intentional ways to create touch points with owners that are positive.
Right.
So our Zoom meetings add a lot of value to our owners. Mm-hmm. We've also started adding where we will give our owners listings. So we'll find listings in our market and say, here's our property of the month or our property of the week, depending on what's available. And we can get brokerage funds for that we get money to the brokerage when they buy, but also it's a new management client. We already have the owner.
Right.
Because a lot of our owners have cash. They're just kind of sitting on it. They're not really sure what to do.
Right.
So we are trying to give them options and intentionally funnel those out to them.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I think is trying to create opportunities for them to just grow their knowledge and their net worth in general. So like we're doing an in-person summit this year.
Oh, cool.
Where 30 to 40 of our owners will come and they'll have a full day of education, networking, and talking with each other about, hey, what investments are you looking at now? What are you doing? Because most of our owners have one property, maybe two. So it's not like they're these big wigs with dozens and thousands of properties or anything like that. But that we're creating the venue for them to grow their network and grow their net worth. And that's going to come back to us. I know it will come back to us. And we've already seen it.
I think the education piece of it is so important because what you're doing is you're creating awareness, right? And even if they get that email with the property of the month and they're not looking at the moment, you're still going to be top of mind when that time does come, or they get that next one and say, actually, you know what? I think it's the right time for us.
Yeah.
and they're not calling some other broker and saying to you, oh, I didn't realize you guys did brokerage, right?
Yeah.
Which is something we hear all the time.
Well, you can see through, I think people see through sales gimmicks a lot easier now.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, this is so-and-so. I mean, if you can provide a little bit of real information,
Yep.
good data, something that they can take, and then let them know what you do, they will come to you rather than you just hunting and fishing for them all the time.
Right. Absolutely. You got to provide value.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, Brad, I can't thank you enough for your time, man. This is a great conversation. Love being
Love
with you.
chatting.
Yeah.
Love seeing what you guys are doing.
Well,
Appreciate you,
we're
brother.
grateful for the partnership and your time today. So
Yeah.
that ends this episode of Grow Outbound. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time.